Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Welcome to the show, y'all. At this time of the year, y'all, I know it. Money is funny. And when money's funny, people will do some strange things for some change. You feel me? I'm telling you now, anything goes. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You run them credit cards up. You're doing whatever you need to do. You're a borrower. You go to these check cashing places. You put your title up on your car. All these kinds of things, right? At these crazy, outrageous interest rates. You borrow money from your friends. You know you ain't got no intention of paying it back because you ain't got no way to pay it back. You feel me? You'll do all of these things, right? But see, some of us will do some things that we can't recover from, right? And these two guys here that I'm going to be telling you about, they thought that robbing a store was going to get them what they wanted and what they needed, right? Because they wanted to enjoy themselves and have a good Christmas and all of these other things, right? And they felt like they didn't have to work for it. Now, keep in mind, they ain't never had no job. They've always gotten it out of the streets, but see, they've gotten it out of the streets. You ever met these type of dudes in the streets that'll be hustling and doing their thing, but they can't never seem to get to a certain level? They always in the level of petty hustlers. You ever met anybody like that? Not to be disrespectful towards anybody, right? We all got to have our place in this thing, right? But they could never get there. They were bad money managers. You feel me? It is one thing to be a bad money manager when you got a job and you working, you always behind on your bill, but you getting it honest. But when you in the streets and you still a bad money manager, something wrong with that. Something wrong with that. You can't even get it dirty. You feel what I'm saying? But here we go. Here we go, y'all. These two dudes, they wanted to live it up for Christmas, right? They had girlfriends and the girlfriends were tired of them. I'm painting a picture for you. Listen to me now. The girlfriends were tired of them, sick of the games, can't never really help them with the rent. Cause both of their girlfriends got jobs. And they were putting up with them. I don't know why. Got a lot of people out there like it. And come on, let's keep it real. You putting up with your dude that ain't contributing. Or vice versa. It can be the other way around. We're going to keep this thing equal. You know what I'm saying? I'm for equality. You feel me? Now here's the thing. These two individuals, they just could never seem to get it right. Now, one of them come up with the clever idea to knock off the store that's in the neighborhood, right? It's in the neighborhood. Meaning that they frequented this store a lot. Everybody knows them. The dude at the store knows them. Everybody know everybody, right? Now, this story is interesting because one of the guys told his partner, he said, look, man, it ain't no way we can really get away with this. Now, the other dude was more insistent because it was his idea. He was like, look, we run up in there. We got our faces covered. We got the gun. They're going to drop it off. We in and out like that. No problem. You feel me? And the other guy's asking him, what about people that might be coming in? Remember what I told you about people most time in the streets don't account for if it don't go right. They don't. I'm telling you. People in the streets, if you let them talk to you long enough, they will talk you into anything. And y'all know what I'm talking about. A street person can talk you into anything because we know how to make it sound good. Because, listen, when you're conning somebody, when you're making it sound good, you can make it sound good because there ain't no consequence on it. And you ain't going to accept the consequences of you being wrong anyway. You'll have a reason that it went wrong other than your plan. You're going to make up one and it don't matter. And that's why we stay in the hole a lot. But anyway, the one dude that come up with the idea, he telling the other dude it will work. The one that's going to be going with him, he tells him it can't work. But let me show you something about how the mind works on that when you in the gutter. Let me show you something. I don't want to be too preachy, but I want to give you some insight onto how the mind is working when you in the gutter. Your mind is going to be spinning out of control. And you got to keep in mind, you got to understand how the brain works. The brain is there for you to solve problems for you. You feel what I'm saying? Look at it like this. When you go through a traumatic event, right? And I'm not finna get to preaching psychotherapy to you, anything like that, right? But when you're going through a traumatic event, right, your brain sometimes will shut down, right? Because it wants you to survive the experience. And sometimes that memory will be put away somewhere on the shelf, and it'll take something to trigger that to bring it back up, right? Okay, the mind works the same way when you have a problem. It can only work to the capacity that it has to understand based on the information that you've put in it, right? Okay, what that means is this: garbage in, garbage out. Now, these two individuals, all they've been putting in their heads is garbage. So the answers and solutions that they keep coming up with are garbage. The stuff that's good that's been going in their head, coming from their mothers, their parents, and girlfriends, and all these other people: get a job, do this, go back to school, do that. They push that to the back burner. It was more garbage in than good stuff going in. So their brain is searching for a solution for this problem that they have. They want money. They need some money. And now their brain is going to work, and it can only come up with an answer that is suitable for them in the way their brains work and the capacity that they have to understand. Why? Because they are in the gutter. And your moral compass is off. So the brain came up with this idea with one of them: let's rob somebody. It made perfect sense to him, right? You know how we always say, make it make sense? Well, I'm going to show you something. If your brain is full of garbage, it's going to make sense to you to do some garbage. It's simple. It is simple. If you are not on that kind of stuff, you're going to be looking at them like, you know how y'all look at us in the penitentiary? And then everybody be saying, what were they thinking? Good Lord. I thought he was smarter than that. I thought she was smarter than that. You know what you say. And you're right about what you're saying. Let's go on and get that on the record too. You're right about what you're saying. What were they thinking? We wasn't thinking, y'all. We weren't thinking. Just like these two guys, they were not thinking. They went out there and they did what they did because the information that they had in their heads made what they were believing, what they were thinking, right. The garbage in their brains made it make sense. So they went out there and they robbed the store right there in the neighborhood, and lo and behold, somebody happens to walk in the store. Keep in mind, this is a store. This is a store. So people come in and out all the time in the neighborhood. And when they came in the store, even though the dudes had on masks, they locked eyes. Now, you know how you can look at somebody in the dark, right? Especially somebody that you've been knowing, and the eyes look familiar. They look familiar to you. You can recognize them even if they're from a distance by their walk. It's certain characteristics that we have about ourselves that people that know us can tell from a distance. Oh, that's such and such right there. Oh, I could tell by the way he walking. I could tell by the way she walking. Oh, that's her voice. Then, see, the person that walked into this store, he saw their eyes. And they knew that he knew who they were just by the way that they looked at each other. You know how somebody, you look at each other and you got that familiarity? And they looked at him. And it scared him to death. Why? Because this person that walked in this store, they kin to the police. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Didn't plan on that. I don't care how good of a chess player you are. You better calculate all the moves before you make your move, because your next move better be your best move. So here they go. Here they go. The one behind him, listen to me. The one that came up with this crazy idea in the first place is standing behind his partner. He shoots. Pow! Hit dude in the leg. Dude fall down, hollering like, I mean, look here, if you ever been shot, I'm telling you now, I ain't been shot, but I got a lot of friends that been shot. And they tell me it feel like somebody's sticking with a hot poker. You understand what I'm saying? On fire. You feel me? He fall down. He holler, ah. Now the dude behind the counter, he done raised up that double barrel and he get the blast in that thing. And that's what saved their lives. Because both of them ran up out of the store. They ran up out of the store. They ain't got that much money. All they got is what they got in their hand. That's it. They ran up out of the store. Now, dude is laying down. He thinks he knows who this is. So, of course, the owner of the store, he calls the police. The police get there, and then they start to question him, right? They get the ambulance there. They take him to the hospital. He survives. Leg is messed up, but he survives. and he tells them who he thinks it is. Yes, and their names were familiar with the police, but they had never done anything like this. But it was the holidays. And like I said at the beginning of this time, during this time of the year, when it comes to them holidays, people do stuff that you would never imagine that they would do. That you would never imagine that they would do. So when the police bump down on them and pick them up, of course they do what we all do. I ain't done nothing. I ain't done nothing. And they get arrested anyway. Now in this situation, one of them turned on the other. Yeah, one of them turned on the other. But it was a funny way it played out. It was a funny way that it played out because the guy that set all of this up, that influenced the other guy to do it, is the one that was talking first. See, because he knew the game a little bit more than his partner did. First one talks, first one gets the deal. So he started running his mouth. But at the same time, now they put them on different floors, okay? At the same time that this is going on, they're exchanging letters with each other in the jail. They're talking and all of this old kind of stuff. And all of those letters that were being exchanged in the jail between them two, the one that was working with the DA turned all those letters over to the DA. Popped them. Because dude is admitting to certain things in these letters. Now, you keep in mind, the one dude is already admitted to the police, but he's a witness. Now, he's getting the other dude to admit to certain things that they planned out and all this and that, just conversations in general that implicated him. So when it was time to go to trial, even if he gets to deny, they got these letters in his own handwriting, saying these own things. These are his words. Bipped him. Now, both of them end up in the penitentiary with a lot of time. Both of them end up in the penitentiary with a lot of time, and now these two friends are enemies. These two friends are enemies, and I want to make sure that you understand something. The way it works in here, when you have situations like if somebody testify against other, you know how they say snitches get stitches and all these other types of things, right? Those things are real. But it doesn't happen as much as you think it would happen, but it does happen. Because right now what you have going on in these penitentiaries is this, y'all. I'm going to tell you something. If you got a loved one in the penitentiary and they're not doing drugs, you need to encourage them and keep them up. Because the majority of people that are locked up in the penitentiary today, they're getting high. They're getting high. Prison has gotten so infested with drugs and people getting high because there ain't no hope in here that a lot of the things that used to go on back in the day because of snitching and all, it's not happening like that. People are getting killed in here because the other people, it's about getting that dope. If you got some drugs, you selling drugs or you using drugs and they find out you got it, they coming to get it. They more focused on that than you testifying in court, because what has happened in here is that everybody's starting to realize that we all in this together. We all done something stupid. And living up to this ideology, this movie type mindset where, the criminal does this and the police does that and all this. Ain't nobody on that. Ain't nobody on that. Everybody in here miserable and sad and hopeless and wanting out. And wanting out. It's almost like that we've been beaten down and remolded into somebody that's just sorry and pitiful. And it's dark in here. You don't want to come in here. That's one of the reasons. Let me tell you, one of the main reasons I wanted to do this podcast is because you don't want this. You don't want this. And whatever anybody's telling you out there about the lifestyle, they're lying to you about how this is going to turn out. Your life is not going to turn out good if you do this. I don't care if you're selling drugs, robbing, stealing, killing, raping, whatever, any of that nonsense. All of that nonsense is going to get you built. Trust that. Trust that. And these two individuals end up in the penitentiary. They got a lot of time, right? And they've been here. And they're going to be here. It's one thing about being in the penitentiary. They're not going to let you out until the time comes for you to be let out or you die. That's dead on that. It ain't nothing you can do about it. And you'll be stuck in an environment where people in here arguing about phones, showers, where to sit at the chow hall, and all this old kind of nonsense. Somebody always telling you what to do. And that's what they got caught up in. All because they wanted to do some partying and kicking it, and the rent was due, and all of these types of things. All of the pressures of being in the world came down on them, and because they had always been doing and thinking in a negative and stupid way, they thought that this would help solve their problems. No, when the rent is due, you don't strap up. When the rent is due, you don't strap up, y'all. When the rent is due, you get a job. You should have already had one. I'm going to leave it with that, y'all. I'm going to leave it with that because I know y'all know how I get to preaching and all this, and I know y'all don't want to hear me preaching right now. You feel me? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I said peace, y'all.